As keto's popularity increases, so do the keto snack options. It's great to have options, but even if these snacks meet your macro needs, they might not be benefiting you health and weight loss wise. In this video, we will go over different, how many? Five keto ingredients that you will want to be aware of. All right, so we are going to start with soy protein isolate. So it is what it sounds like. So it is soy protein that has been isolated from all of the other components of the soybean. So it has been highly processed. With soybeans, we know that one of the knocks against them is that they are genetically modified. So we'll go into these types of things, but talk about what we have concerns about and what the benefits are.
Well, so we know that soy protein is a complete protein. Mm-hmm. It is kind of a low quality protein though. One of the other things that I've been concerned with for a very long time, coming from a bodybuilding, powerlifting background, is the phytoestrogens that occur in soy. So phytoestrogens are plant compounds that kind of act like estrogens. Mm-hmm. They interact, with estrogen receptors in the human body. They're considered endocrine disruptors, to some extent. And the research on this is kind of, you can find plenty to one side and plenty to the other side. There are many studies that say that it doesn't seem to have a great effect on estrogen receptors. It doesn't seem to have a great effect on testosterone levels in men. I was able to find just very quickly, a couple on the other end of that, where they did some studies and showed that men on a high soy diet had a decreased sperm count. Mm-hmm. Another study where they fed pigs, one group a casein protein, which is milk protein, and the other group they fed the soy protein, and they found that the pigs that had the soy protein diet had a higher level of muscle wasting. For this reason, I choose not to use soy.
Well, right, and so you say there's the differing research on the phytoestrogen effect. There's also the differing opinion on genetically modified ingredients. So that's become such a buzzword in health nowadays that is there certainly a bad side to genetic modification? Absolutely. Can it go too far? Absolutely. Yeah. But genetic modification, our grandfathers were probably doing this when they would take a fruit tree and they would graft a branch onto it. It is generally genetic modification. So we kind of have the position, or at least I do, yes, it can go too far, but it's not always to the negative.
Right. Genetic modification be anything from resistant to certain pests.
Yes. Right.
Higher yields, or maybe even environment. They've made corn plants that can grow in very arid regions, like in Africa and some of the desert regions, to help feed the people there. So genetic modification is not always a bad thing, but this is kind of like building robots to help us. Yeah. Are they going to take over the world? Well, who knows?
They might.
They might.
But the problem for us, and we're kind of getting off on a tangent on GMOs, but the problem for us with soy is that it is everywhere. Everywhere. Go into any aisle of the grocery store, turn over a product, and soybean oil is going to be there, or soy protein isolate, or some component of that. It's fed to our animals as feed, so it comes into us. We try to avoid it if it is on the ingredient list.
Right, and we should say that in the United States, the soy industry and farming, it does support a lot of family farms. So, absolutely. And we're very big supporters of farming and farmers. Yep. So we don't want you to take that in the wrong way. Personally, we're going to try and avoid it in our foods.
Right. So. Next. Maltodextrin. Now this is a biggie. All right, so maltodextrin is made from vegetable starch, and it is usually clumped in with the names that we have for alternatives for sugar. It's not quite as sweet as a lot of those other alternatives, but it is often added to sugar-free products because it changes the texture, it improves the texture, kind of the mouthfeel, if you will, of the product. So you'll often find this on ingredient lists. The challenge is that it has a high glycemic index.
Right. It's absorbed just as fast as pure glucose.
Yeah. And in fact, depending on the source that you see for maltodextrin, it has a glycemic index of, what was it, like 87 to 136, which is like off the charts of what glycemic index is allowed to be.
Right. And sugar is?
65-ish,
65.
something like that.
Yeah.
Glycemic index is a measure of how much a product will raise your blood sugar.
Right.
If you see this on an ingredient list and it's saying that it's keto friendly or something like that, you have to understand that this could be raising your blood sugar.
Yeah, and it's the last thing you want if you're on a ketogenic diet, right? I mean, you raise your blood glucose, you're most likely going to kick yourself out of ketosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely on the bad list. So next on our list is sugar alcohols. So these are compounds that are formed from sugars, and they typically have the OL suffix to them. So xylitol, sorbitol, maltitol, or erythritol, that's another one. And some are okay, I mean, have some benefits, and some you might want to steer clear of. Xylitol and erythritol, while they can cause a little stomach upset, they're generally pretty good. They've both been shown to prevent tooth decay.
Right, which is why you see xylitol oftentimes in sugar-free chewing gums.
Right. So on the bad end of these sugar alcohols is maltitol. So maltitol is about 90% as sweet as sugar. It's got about half the calories, so you're still getting calories there. And it has a glycemic index of around 35. So we said sugar was 65, this is 35. It's about half that, but it's still going to cause some, kick up your blood glucose.
Right. And this is another one that I think probably when I look at a keto-friendly snack, this has been added.
Yeah.
Maltitol is what I'm talking about. And of all the sugar alcohols, it is probably the one that has the most of chance of raising your blood sugar. Maybe I'm being a little. It's got to be one of the highest.
Yeah, it is one of the highest. And they put this in, they can subtract it because it's get their net carb things. So
Yeah, sugar alcohols can be subtracted from the total carbs to give you a net carb.
Yeah.
But that reading does not necessarily mean that it's not going to raise your blood sugar.
Right. And again, these things are highly processed. Everything we talked about is highly processed.
Right.
Some other things that can go wrong with a lot of sugar alcohols, that they do prolong your sweet cravings, and that sensation that you need to have snacks, which is why the snack industry exists. I mean, they just kind of proliferate or kind of perpetuate their own things, It's like, have a snack, have another one, I want another one.
Yeah, you do. You do truly win. It keeps your sweet tooth alive, is the way I usually say it. And along the lines, if I can, about, you mentioned about stomach upset with some of them. And a lot of that is because the sugar alcohols qualify as FODMAPs. If you've ever heard of that term before, maybe you've heard of it with people that suffer from IBS. They'll go on a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are much like fiber in that they don't get absorbed very easily, and so they make it the whole way down your digestive tract to your colon where the bacteria meet them and then they digest them. Fiber, that's a good thing, because those little bacteria digest it and become short-chain fatty acids, which are so good for our health in many ways. FODMAPs, they are digested by bacteria that turn them into more hydrogen gas. So fiber will produce gas too, which is why beans get their bad reputation, right?
Magical fruit.
But that's methane, whereas FODMAPs will produce more hydrogen gas. And that not only causes gas, but it also causes abdominal bloating, abdominal pain, and all those things that we associate with irritable bowel syndrome.
Yep. So the next thing we're going to talk about is glycerin or glycerol. So when you put the OL on it, you know that we're talking about another sugar alcohol. I've seen this pop up in more and more of the labels lately that I've looked at. And one of the things, when we're in the store, if anything says keto on it, I always grab it and look at it. Usually the picture on the package looks fantastic, but when you start reading the ingredients, I'm like, yeah, I'll just put that back. So glycerin is actually made typically from vegetable fats. And think about, triglycerides we've talked about. The glycerin backbone with the fatty acid chains. You take those fatty acid chains off and you've got glycerin. So glycerin is very sweet. it can cause some stomach issues. It does pull a lot of water into the gut when you take it, internally. So, if you're constipated and it has this laxative effect, it can kind of help, of take care of that. If you're not constipated and you're taking it, you might go the opposite extreme and have some diarrhea and stomach discomfort and that type of thing.
Right, and I think probably the thing with glycerin is that it has a benefit for us, like a skin moisturizer and utilized in soaps, I think, and things like that.
Yeah.
But as far as taking it internally, then it takes on more of a controversial effect and can cause diarrhea and things like that.
Yeah, and I didn't find very much, research-wise for the internal use of it as opposed to the external use of it. So the last thing, tapioca starch.
Yep, it's basically a carbohydrate, so it's starch. But we kind of cover up the fact that it's sugar or a starch by just saying tapioca. And I think a lot of times,
tapioca. Oh,
it has a well, that seems healthy type of a ring to it. I think.
So it comes from tapioca. Actually, comes from the cassava plant in South America. Did you know that? Before I told you.
But it is a purely a carbohydrate, so it really doesn't have any other value to it other than being a carbohydrate, which is not really what you want in a keto snack. So it's basically just giving you empty carb calories.
Yeah, and again, it's a thickening agent. It's kind of that mouthfeel thing, and we did find it's hard to find glycemic indexes. Always for all these specific things. Tapioca flour has a glycemic index of 67, which is higher than sugar. So, it's one of those things that could be spiking your blood glucose a little bit.
Right, and I think a lot of times tapioca starch or these types of things are used for gluten-free products. So if you're looking at gluten-free as an option, you might see tapioca starch on there a little bit more. But the takeaway is, right, the glycemic index. So, you're going for this keto snack, and it says, oh, it only has like 2 net carbs, but they're utilizing all of these different ingredients to get those carbs down to where they are. And what they're not telling you is that a lot of these ingredients do have a glycemic index. And remember, a glycemic index is a measure of how much is going to raise your blood sugar. That is not what you want on a keto diet, because as blood sugar goes up, ketone production goes down. So it's just things to be aware of. If there's a long ingredient list, I would just put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, right.
And the thing is, you don't need to go with keto snacks. There are so many delicious foods on a keto diet. Over on our website, we have a 21-day keto challenge. You are not going to have to rely on going out and getting keto snacks that are deceptive.
These foods are delicious.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
these meals are delicious. They're satisfying. You don't have any need for snacks.
Yeah, so we'll point you in that direction. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will be back with another video soon. Thanks.